So Cheers star
Yes.
George Wendt died at 76. So what's going on?
I mean, this is such a loss that I think is felt here more so than maybe anywhere else on the planet, because he was one of us, right?
Yeah.
Born on the South Side, the Beverly neighborhood, grew up a Bears fan, grew up a Sox fan. It's funny, I was just walking up here and I walked by Fox 32's own Per Schultz, and as soon as I walked by, he goes, George. He goes, it hits you in the heart.
Yeah.
And, Robert Smigel, who was one of his fellow SNL Bears superfans, wrote a really nice comment that I think sort of sums up what we're feeling about George. And he said, no one was more Chicago than George Wendt. He sort of just personified everything that was about us. Even though, I know we're watching clips of Cheers, and even though that is quintessentially a Boston story, George Wendt personified everything that we know about the people of Chicago. You're confident without being pretentious. You're humble. You're a hard worker. You're one of the guys, and I think that's why
salt of the earth.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why he played
Yeah.
into the whole Da Bears superfans thing. And that was such a great sketch. It's so funny. I know. He was in all 275 episodes of Cheers. He passed away on the 32nd anniversary of the Cheers finale.
So wild.
And so for so many people, Norm, when he walks in, that was the thing. I guarantee you, that the show ended in '93. There probably weren't that many rooms he walked into without people shouting Norm.
Exactly.
In the same way Robin Williams used to tell stories, even after he won the Oscar, people would yell, "Hey, Mork!" So, those things never leave you.
Mork and Mindy, that's right.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
But in the same way that his characters never left him, I don't think Chicago ever left him.
No.
In the way that it doesn't leave a lot of actors. A lot of these guys, they cut their teeth here, they get their start here, as George did over at Second City. You walk up those stairs and you see the class photos of all the people, and it doesn't matter where you go on this planet. Once that's in you, it's in you forever, and it's in all your characters forever, I think.
Can you believe he was 76?
Yeah.
Caitlin, when you were in Michigan, for example, were the superfans a thing? I mean, because a lot of it, I feel like the '90s, he was like the archetypal Chicago, and him, and Chris Farley, Smigel, and those guys.
Joe Mantegna was in that.
Joe
first. He was in
Mantegna,
the
that's
very
right.
First
So
The
Caitlin,
Bears.
in the '90s, was that when you were in Michigan, growing up in Michigan? Do you remember the superfan, the Bears,
I do.
and all that? Okay.
And I don't know when that came to me. I don't remember when it happened. But yeah, even in Michigan, I mean, far and wide, I think it spread.
I mean, that was kind of that SNL sketch was like the seed. That was it. Kind of that's where that. And now I think it's become part of pop culture where people might even know that phrase without knowing where it came from.
Yeah.
It always pops in my head, right? You can see it.
Yeah.
The image in your mind.
Going back to this is this is off topic, but like the phrase "That's what she said." Most people know it from The Office, but you know where it actually came from? It's from a Wayne's World sketch.
Really?
It's from a Wayne's World sketch.
Wayne's World, which would make sense because in The Office, Michael Scott was a huge fan of Mike Myers and a huge fan of SNL and a huge fan of Wayne. So it would make sense in The Office that Michael Scott would get it from Wayne. But so The Office made it famous. But my long point being that sometimes these expressions that are a part of our culture, go back to SNL, and these small little moments, and the Bear superfans is a great example of that.
I like how you remind us very appropriately that all roads lead back to Chicago.